Hello and welcome to Odds on Serie A Matchday 16 and Italian Supercup, because we have two great games this week in the semifinals of the Supercup. So everything with Leo Bachanian, as always, two competitions for the price of one. Leo, how are you? Who is the favorite? Who is going to win the Supercup?
Hello, Edu, how are you? To be honest, I think that Milan can repeat the feast of last year. What a change after 12 months for them, because this was the first tournament with 𝐿𝐭𝐴𝐳𝐵, and they won it. And we remember 𝐿𝐭𝐴𝐳𝐵 celebrating with his cigar in the changing room, and then we know how things unfold 6 months after, and Allegri arrived, and they're doing very well despite the 2-2 on the weekend against Sassuolo. But we know as well how Inter is struggling under 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐳 on big games. Napoli is now at the back of 2 defeats. That's why I believe Milan can take the Super Cup back to Milano.
Okay, well, guys, let me know in the comments who are you backing for this Super Cup. In Serie A, we have also Juve-Roma, so big game.
Yeah. Big.
There, so let me know in the comments, as I said, who is winning this Italian Super Cup in your opinion, and yeah, tell me your tips for this new match day. Don't forget to subscribe, guys. At the end of 2025, 40K subscriber. Come on, last push. And now let's go on with the show. Well, Leo, as I said, let's start with the Super Cup games on Thursday and Friday. On Thursday, Napoli, Milan, and the bookies. I'm surprised to see the bookies placing Milan slightly favorites. The odds are really balanced, but slightly favorites Milan, perhaps because they beat Napoli this season already. Could be in the big games. They are doing really well. They beat Inter, they beat Napoli, they beat Roma, drew with Juventus, deserving to win. And Napoli is kind of not the opposite, because it's not in the big games, it's away from home. We saw it again in Udinese,
Exactly.
in Lisbon against Benfica. How do you see this one? Although you already gave me a glimpse.
Yes, I mean, I do see the parity, Edu, and I think it's a game that could go all the way before they decide who's going to be on the final of this Super Cup. Probably, yes, the last 2 defeats for Napoli has taken a toll on their odds. It's 2 consecutive defeats for them after those 4 consecutive wins and the system change. I think that or at least the feeling after the 2-0 with Benfica and the 1-0 against Udinese is that fatigue is playing their part in a team that is using the same players repeatedly. I saw a lack of energy in the second half against Udinese, a team which ran over them, and they had even a couple of goals disallowed before they scored. You have players like Giovanni Di Lorenzo, McTominay, Milinkovic-Savic. They have all played every minute since Conte switched to 3-man defense against Atalanta. That was November 22. That makes it 6 full games in less than 1 month, with these players playing all the minutes. The injuries to 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐴, to Billy Gilmour, to Lobotka did not help Conte to rest McTominay, for instance. Then you have Rrahmani, Neres, Højlund, Buongiorno having played 90% of all the minutes available in the same time. Beukema and Noah Lang, more than 80% of the minutes available. Probably, of course, that is not the only thing that explains their current situation. You mentioned very well the away form. This is the Super Cup in a way as well, an away game for them. They lost 4 games on the road in Serie A, and all 3 they played away in the Champions League. Some positives to take into this Super Cup. Romelu Lukaku traveled with the squad, and he could be involved, but it's great to see him back with the team. Lobotka played 25 minutes on Sunday. He could probably start and against Milan. And it's going to be a battle of the midfield against Milan, because on the other side they have Rabiot, Modric, 𝐿𝐵𝗀𝗀𝐀𝐿, and they're going to be against 𝐻𝐿𝐴, Lobotka, and I think Elmas. I'm saying this because I believe that Conte could drop Noah Lang or David Neres to add one more midfielder and play with the 3-5-2. This is the type of game that is suiting this season more Milan. They have been great in the big games this season. Yes, they continue to draw points and concede goals against teams that they are supposed or we expect them to beat. Cremonese, Pisa, Parma, Sassuolo. Incredibly, 3 of those fixtures were 2-2 draws. As I mentioned before, last season they arrived to this competition with Fonseca, but a year after they look much better. I'm sorry, with 𝐿𝐴𝐴, but a year after they look much better under Max Allegri. For me, the core of this team is that midfield trio, Rabiot, Modric, and 𝐿𝐵𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. Pulisic was strangely taken off in the second half against Sassuolo, but the weakest point, I believe, as well, it continues to be who plays alongside Pulisic, and 𝐿𝐭𝐴 is far from being the answer. 𝗵𝗂𝒫 from the left wing-back position helped with the brace on the weekend, but to win the 𝐿𝐵𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, you need a goal scorer, Edu. Rafa Leao has not yet recovered from his injury against Torino, so he's in doubt for this Super Cup. My solution here will be to play with Samuel Ricci in midfield and allow 𝗿𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 to roam a little bit more forward. A very tight semi-final, as I said. I do see Milan anyway, the slightly favorites here. My take, Milan to qualify. Milan to qualify 1.9, Edu.
Okay, our smart bet is going for double chance for Napoli. Really open this one. And the second semi-final is Bologna-Inter. Here we have one clear favorite, Inter Milan, 1.6. Bologna to win is 5.8. Inter that were able to beat Genoa at tough stadium, but there is this question mark about the big games for 𝐿𝐵𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, so it's very important if they can get this trophy home after losing to Liverpool, for instance, in the Champions League. Another big games against Milan, against Napoli, against Atletico de Madrid. This cannot be called, I would say, a big game, but still, of course, it's a trophy. And Bologna, I guess, with nothing to lose as the cup winners. Not in the best form in Serie A, no wins in the last 3, but nothing to lose, as I said.
Yes, Edu, and that's something to take into account. There is no pressure in Bologna at all. And this is going to be another test for 𝐿𝐵𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 on the big games. Against Genoa, we got what we expected, and we talk about Lazio. Inter recovering, bouncing back straight away after the defeat in the Champions League. They had an early lead with 𝗵𝗡𝗍, 6 defender to score for Inter this season, more than any other team, with defenders involved at the other end. When Lautaro Martinez scored the 2-0, I thought the game was over, but Inter was made to suffer in the second half. With the win, Inter went top of the table, Edu, for the first time since April. That's a long time. And after Juventus, Milan, Napoli, and Roma, Serie A now has their 5th leader of the season. And it's remarkable that Inter is top of the Serie A, which shows the parity and probably as well the irregularity, because they are top after 15 games, having lost 4 games already. That is a little bit strange. Lautaro Martinez with his goal is the 𝐋𝐞𝐭'𝐬, now 8 goals this season, 1 more than Pulisic with 7. And contrary to Allegri, 𝐬𝐭𝐴 has more and much better options to play alongside his star man. Thuram and Boni have been good complements for the Argentinian. But 𝐬𝐭𝐴 is in defiance, his confidence. He keeps repeating that despite what people say, in his view, they are having a great season, which is also what Vincenzo Italiano thinks about his Bologna, even if they lost, as you mentioned, 2 of the last 3 in Serie A. The win away in Europa League against Celta in Vigo was very good, but with Juventus, the second half was far from their best. No pressure on them in this Super Cup. All defeats for Inter coming in big games. And for me, Edu, despite just how clear the odds are on place Inter as favorite, for me the value is in the double chance Bologna at 2.25.
Okay. Well, this is for the Italian Super Cup, of course, really interesting. And also we have a match day 16 in Serie A starting on Saturday. We have two games. Lazio Cremonese is the first one. Lazio getting closer to the European spots. They got a crazy win in Parma, down to 9 men. And Noslin scored the winner. No one believed, of course. In Lazio, all last 10 games in all competitions, under 2.5 goals is the team with less both teams to score in Serie A. So some options for you to bet on here. Leo and Cremonese, only 2 points less than Lazio, but lost to Torino.
Yes, and to be honest, I think it was last show we talked that Lazio's performances this season, considering all their difficulties with injuries, within a short squad, unable to sign players, has been a little bit better than their point tally. And what happened on the weekend at the end of Tardini is something that Lazio supporters are going to remember, or they're going to talk for a while, because to win away from home after going down to 9 men is not happening every Sunday. Some are saying that probably those 2 red cards, or at least Lazio supporters, could have been yellow. I'm not very sure about that, but it serves the narrative that which in Lazio they mention a lot, that officials are not getting things right with them. Actually, Lotito, Lazio's president, brought a priest during the week to the training ground to bless the facilities, the staff with holy water. I mean, the priest could not affect the referee, but for sure they could give him some credit for the 3 points. But now, seriously, this is a side that is growing in confidence and self-belief with every game. One to have found belief is actually Noslin. He started every game in the bench. Sarri said at one point that he did not have a specific role for him in the team, but lately he's becoming the striker in whom Sarri can trust to be Castellanos number 2. This season that has been mostly 𝗛𝗲𝗄, but I said a few times, 𝗛𝗲 is a better player when playing behind the striker rather than being the striker himself. They are 2 points behind 𝐿𝐵𝐻𝐵, 3 points behind Bologna, and no one can say that the 𝐿𝐵𝐻𝐵 and Bologna are having bad seasons. And with the Rosso-Blu busy with the Super Cup this week, Lazio could find the chance to climb to European places. At home, they won 4 and drew 2 in 7 games. Cremonese, yes, they have won big games away from home, San Siro and Bologna. They have no grace lately, with 3 wins and 4 defeats in the last 7. The defeat with Torino, they were below par, I would say. I didn't see the intensity in attack or in transition that we got used to with this team. Lazio, the favorite here. The X1 odds are good at 1.61, but I'm going to combine that. Lazio to win with goals over 1.5. These two together, odds of 2.1.
And then the game of the weekend in the Serie A is Juve Roma for the Champions League spots. We can say 4th against the 5th. Usually we check the head-to-head, really low-scoring games, draws, but this Roma hasn't drawn yet a single game. They were able to win again in Serie A after 2 consecutive defeats. It was on Monday against Como with Wesley scoring. Also, they did the same in the Europa League against Celtic, and Juve also improving in the last game. Spalletti playing against another ex. Leo, how do you see this Juve Roma?
Well, there is as well a party here, Edu, but I mean, I have my doubts a little bit with Juventus. To be honest, it's true. Look, the win against Bologna has been the best win under Luciano Spalletti. He kept his 3-4-2-1. Jonathan David was the one charging the line behind 𝐿𝐵𝐻𝐿 and 𝐶𝐭nceição. They have Khéphren Thuram back in the double pivot with Locatelli. The wings for McKennie and Cambiaso, which for the American is a little bit awkward, I would say. But this is probably now the best lineup for Spalletti. Of course, once Bremer is fully fit, he came on the second half, he will be one of the free center backs, and we will see if 𝐿𝐵𝐼ners keep his place. Even the substitutions work for Juventus on the weekend, because Cabal, the Colombian, did very well, and he scored the winning goal. Openda replaced Jonathan David, and probably he had his best half an hour as a Juventus player. It's a result that moved Juventus fifth on the table, within a point of the Champions League places before facing this Roma. They have won now 2 of the last 3 league matches, which is as many wins they had in the previous 9 at the end of Igor Tudor's time at the club. I think that the best take for Juventus is that Bologna is a team that forces you into duels all the time with their aggressive marking and pressing. It's a team that does not allow you to hide. You lose duels, you lose the game probably against Bologna. And Juventus players were in a combative mood. And now comes Roma, that also is going to push them for a battle with their man-to-man marking. Roma, which after the defeats with Napoli and Cagliari, the 3 points against 𝐿𝐵𝐼ners, for me, they were more important than the performance, at least before the game. But they weren't outplayed at all against 𝐿𝐵𝐼ners, and they closed very good 72 hours, because the win against 𝐿𝐵𝐼ners came after the win in the Europa League against Celtic, 3-0. I said that last show that Matthias Soulé was not the same as the start of the season, but on Monday he was probably back to his best. There were no Roma players under 6 points performance, but overall Soulé was the best. I think was as well the best game of Roma playing at the Olimpico this season. They continue to be the best defense in Serie A, with 8 goals conceded in 15 matches. They have now taken the lead, Roma, in 9 games this season, and they're going to win all of them. And all their defeats have been just by 1-0. So we can't, or I can't expect the goal feast here. Goes under 2.5 is at 1.63, is one to take. But they're going to go for another double chance. In this case, Roma double chance at 1.76.
Okay, well, the smart bet is also going for double chance, but in this case, the strange one, 1-2, which I don't trust, and then going for full-time result, Juventus, but with really low confidence rating. I guess also we shouldn't expect many goals here. If we check the under 2.5 goals is, let me see, 1.6. So
6, yep.
Yep, the bookies don't expect many goals. It's been a massive week, by the way, for the city of Roma. We saw the the metro station of the Coliseum opening. Perhaps it's a good one for Roma supporters to go and celebrate the season's trophy. Let's see what happens. For Sunday, Cagliari, Pisa. This one important for the relegation. Pisa now penultimate in the standings, 4 points away from Parma. Cagliari 2 points away from Verona, right now safe, but they lost again. How do you see this relegation 6-pointer?
Look, Edu, I think that Pisa supporters are tired of listening. They are playing a 6-pointer, because Cagliari is going to be their 6th game in the last 7 that could fall in that definition. Torino, Sassuolo, Cremonese, Parma, Lecce, and now Cagliari, with Inter squeezed only in the middle. I mean, with Lecce, it was the 3rd consecutive defeat and scoring none on those games for Pisa. They haven't actually scored in 9 out of their 15 games, and this is becoming a huge problem in their challenge to avoid the relegation. Cagliari, you mentioned, a little bit more relaxed, because they are being 4 points above the red zone, even after the defeat against Atalanta last weekend. So they had here a big chance to create a 7 points buffer zone with Pisa. The last 2 games at home have been a 3-3 thriller with Genoa and a huge win against Roma. Although before those 2 good results, they suffered 3 consecutive defeats in Sardinia. But I will take them for the win here, Edu. I can't see Pisa inflicting pain. They are digging and digging to find chances to score, but those are very, very scarce. That's why my take here, Edu, straight X1, Cagliari to win 2.25.
Sassuolo Torino is the next one. Torino finally finding the win, the 3 points against Cremonese after 3 consecutive defeats and conceding many goals. Sassuolo, as we said against Milan, be careful with this game because Sassuolo is very dangerous. They grab a point in San Siro after beating Fiorentina, not far actually from the European spots. What a season for the Sassuolo for coming back after the relegation.
Absolutely, Edu. That 2-2 against Milan was very, very good, and they could have won it even on the last ball of the game. Laurenti hitting the post and missing a huge chance, almost against Maignan or with just Maignan to beat. They were ahead, then they were behind, and they managed to get at least a point. They were very brave, especially in the second half. They were exchanging blows in that second half in San Siro. His 3 goals and 2 assists for Laurenti this season. His 30 minutes on the pitch were almost enough I would say, to claim MVP for him, attacking as a winger or as a number 9. And I absolutely see them as favorites here, Edu. Sassuolo, despite Torino getting a very important win on Matchday 15 against Cremonese, was the first win in the last 2 months for them, and they were facing a side that was at the back of 2 wins against Lecce and Bologna, and taking aside the first 15 minutes when Torino looked nervous and Cremonese seemed to dictate the game. Then Marco Baroni's team justified the win. Did they control the ball? Not really. They were happy to see the ground after 𝗛𝗲𝗄 scored. He has 3 goals in Serie A, and this season he will be 100% finished this season with his best numbers in the last 6 years. He doesn't need anyway to do a lot to reach his best goal scoring season in those years, because his best number were 5 goals in a season in the last 6 years. But even in this less than mediocre season for Torino, 𝗛𝗲𝗄 has been one of the best for Baroni. Despite Torino giving possession to Cremonese, as I said, I can't think of great chances for Cremonese against Baroni's team. So overall, I think it's been a good performance for Baroni's team. But again, Sassuolo, for me, is the favorite here, Edu. Sassuolo to win is 2.35, which is great on its own, but I'm going to go the goals market. In this case, goals over 2.5, odds of 2.2 is also a good one, and that's my take for this Sassuolo Torino.
For sure is not favorite Fiorentina, but the odds are placing them as favorites. I'm surprised. 2.2 against Udinese. They lost to Verona. They look doomed. They look relegated. The club is in turmoil, of course, after that really painful defeat against Verona. Looks like going to Serie B, still winless. And, well, Udinese coming from that win against Napoli. Leo, can put more pain on Fiorentina?
Yes, I mean, and to be honest, Edu, it's difficult for me to understand the odds, and I can't put any faith on them. I will keep repeating, yes, they're going to win a game at some point, but it's not going to be me backing them in this context. And there is a chance that by Sunday, after we finish the show, by the weekend, by Friday, we are talking about a different manager in Fiorentina. I mean, Vanoli is there expecting the sack. I mean, they are 8 points away from to escape the red zone. If someone was telling us at the end of July, beginning of August, that a team that have invested 90 million euros won't win a single game in Serie A in the first 15 matches, probably I would have laughed at him straight away. But that is the case of this Fiorentina. To lose against Verona in a stoppage time was terrible for them. They lost 4 under 7 games under Vanoli, who keeps publicly criticizing his players. And the club is also lost. It's not just Vanoli or the players. Fiorentina directors have decided for a media blackout, and they sent the team to indefinite training retreat. That's how they call it. Their relationship with the supporters is very tense and broken. The team has to stop using the bus with 𝐿𝐵𝐵𝐿𝐴 colors because security concerns. Even players who were amazing last season, like 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲, are not escaping the bad temper mood. 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲, yes, probably he could have done better in Verona's first goal, especially with his positioning. But to say that Fiorentina dropped 8 points this season because of his mistakes, as some papers are saying in Italy, is a little bit unfair with the Spanish goalkeeper. And now comes this Udinese with the sky-high energy after winning against Napoli on the weekend. The win does not change the fact that, anyway, it's difficult to call Udinese's game this season. Look at the colors, Edu. It's all green and red. 4 wins and 5 defeats in the last 9 for Udinese. A win against Lecce was followed with a defeat against Juventus. A win against Atalanta was followed by defeats against Roma and Bologna. A win against Parma followed by defeats against Genoa. And now we will see what's going to happen against 𝐿𝐵𝐵𝐿𝐴. The player of the season for Udinese is Niccolò Zaniolo. He never lived to the expectations, of course, on his career, but when he's in form, he is very, very good. But again, I can't trust Fiorentina. Udinese, under inconsistency, probably is not helping them to go straight for an 𝐿𝐵𝐴. But my take here, at least, and again, is going to be a double chance. But this time for Udinese double chance 1.7.
Poor Fiorentina. I think we all like the city, the Fiorentina, Batistuta, the colors, everything, but it looks like they are going to the B. And the last game we have in this show is Genoa Atalanta. Atalanta beat Cagliari, also beat Chelsea, so back on track with the change of manager. Scamacca also scoring goals, although they lost the last away game, was in Verona with Fog and Genoa. 2 points away from Verona at the moment. They lost to Inter, but they were in good form. How do you see this one?
Yep. Yes, look, I think that sometimes even a defeat shows transformation more than a win, and that is what happened with Genoa, I would say, against Inter. The second half, they found their goal and they were pushing for the equalizer. They took the game into Inter's half. They were brave, as 𝗵𝗏𝗏 like. He was saying, like before the game, that he was finding himself in a tight spot, because if they press Inter too much, they could leave a space in behind and Inter can kill you. But if you drop close to your box, they will score 3 or 4 against you. This was his assessment. And Genoa, I think, is in the right track with under De Rossi. His energy has transformed them. The problems for Genoa are outside of the pitch. I mean, we have seen these scenes of their supporters clashing with Inter Ultras and the police before the game, and that was absolutely awful. There is something positive when you compare Genoa with other teams fighting to avoid relegation. Within the bottom 8, no one has scored more than Genoa's 16 goals. Of course, they will need to find some more defensive balance because they have conceded more than Pisa, Parma, Verona, and Lecce. But they have improved in that defensive regard under De Rossi, apart from that 4-0 defeat in Coppa Italia against actually Atalanta, the rivals on Sunday. Is 5 wins in the last 6 in all competitions for Atalanta. But more importantly, on the weekend against Cagliari, is that they managed to build on the win against Chelsea in the Champions League. As you mentioned, Scamacca scoring a brace. He has 5 goals this season. His best Serie A season saw him scoring 16 goals with Sassuolo, and his best with Atalanta was during his first year, 12 goals he scored. So with him hitting double figures, Atalanta can think of a top 10 finish this season. Why not probably a little bit higher. The odds are good on Atalanta, even better, of course, on Genoa. But my take here, both teams to score yes, odds of 1.95.
All right, Leo. Well, this is it for this show, Supercoppa Serie A. Let's see who is gonna be the winner of the Italian Super Cup on Monday. Remember, of course, that you can tell us what you think in our tipster competitions. You can participate for free. You can win some money. There are a lot of prizes in our website. And also check out Rivals, where you can create your own tipster competition. Leo, your safe bet?
Lazio Cremonese goals over 1.5, odds of 1.33.
And your ACCA?
It's a twofold this time. Sassuolo Torino goals over 2.5. Genoa Atalanta, both teams to score yes, these two together, odds of 4.29.
Okay, Leo Bachanian, thank you. See you next week. Bye-bye.